What's up, guys? If y'all watched the last episode, then y'all seen me pull this 2013 5.4 2 valve out of a van. Fun fact for y'all, all of the van engines are 2 valves. V10s and 5.4s are all 2 valve until they go to, I think it's 20 plus, they go to 7.3. Don't know a whole lot about those 7.3 gases. But this is it. This is the one we're sticking in the camper. I've got to get it stripped down. We're going to do time and chains, reseal it, really just check over everything. So make sure what we're getting is good. This is a low mileage used 5.4 2 valve. They changed the cam pickup or the trigger point on the driver's side cam in 2009 for the vans. So 2008 and down, you can use any of the blocks. Doesn't matter if it's Expedition, F-150, whatever. You got to change the pan, the oil cooler. But in 09, you have to have this set of heads where the blocks are still interchangeable. So if y'all are interested, stay tuned. I'm gonna tear this thing down. There'll be some areas in time lapse, but watch me get it, checked out, checked over, resealed, cleaned up, and ready to stab back in the new van. Hope y'all enjoy. First things first, I want to get this chain off. You'll notice these bolts are very bent. I got one that's broke right here I gotta deal with. Oh, it's not too bad. So there's the chain. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get the AC compressor out of the way so I don't have to deal with these freaking hoses. Disconnect your wiring harness for your AC compressor and your crank sensor. These are going to be 10mm bolts. I do have a tray that's just for this van. So I don't know how you guys are as far as being organized. I try to put everything in trays, kind of separate it all, as far as like front end stuff. I leave all the stuff from the transmission, motor mounts and all on the bottom. But these, I've had so many of these apart, I pretty much know where all the bolts go for the timing covers and all that stuff. I've had a bunch of these torn down and done head gaskets on them, so on and so forth. Need a 15mm. I believe, don't hold me to this, these are something noise reduction. Not noise like you think, noise as in interference. I believe they help take care of the interference from the engine running and different frequencies for the coil packs and all. Again, don't hold me to that. I know they all have it. So, I need my trim tool, wherever it run off to. Toolbox is kind of a disaster right now, just with all the projects we've had. Whenever you're doing one of these, if you happen to take the Velcros off and your bolts fall out, like you're placing the grommets and such, there is a specific place they need to go. Now you can stick them anywhere as far as the thread length and all goes, but the long ones that have a stem on them are designed for the wire loom, different connectors to sit on them. I try to put everything back as close to factory as I possibly can. There is our engine harness off. So I'll go ahead and get our other intake manifold gasket off. I believe this is going to be a factory Ford gasket. It should be. I doubt this thing's ever been resealed. There's no reason for it to be resealed. Too low miles. Now, that brings us to our valve covers. These can absolutely be a pain to get off. When they rust, they kind of hold water. They're going to be an 8mm or 5/16. As you see, the nipples broke on this side and the other one's busted. Wasn't my intent, but the van being smashed made it difficult to get them apart. Extension. Something I do want to do real quick before I get too carried away, that I highly recommend y'all do. If you're going to pull the heads off, it's really not that big of a deal if you do it or don't do it. But if you're not going to pull the heads off, especially on these 05 up engines, they changed the head gasket, so there's really no point. Blow out your intake ports and go ahead and put some paper towels in them. Ideally, you want to do this no matter what you're doing, just in case something changes game plan wise, you don't lose any bolts down in it. Typically what I do, just to make sure before I put it back in the vehicle, is run a magnet around in it. Make sure there's nothing non-organic in there. There shouldn't be any pieces of aluminum, but you may get some plastic and stuff. So especially a lot of the dirt you want to keep out of it. And you see how much buildup is on the top of the heads over here. In a perfect setting, you take an air compressor and blow it all off before you take the intake manifold off. But I'm not working in absolutes perfect over here. We're going to do the best we can with paper towels. Now, we got that out of the way. Go ahead and get y'all a little closer. We're going to check out the inside of this engine together. See how clean it is or how dirty it is. This was a fleet-owned vehicle. Most of them are. So, being it's fleet-owned, typically they take pretty good care of them. I believe got one stripped. I believe this was a fairly large company that owned this thing. So I doubt that they just didn't take very good care of it. Overall, the van was extremely clean inside. The box is clean. I mean, everything is in really good shape about the van except for the fact that it was wrecked. Wow. Very clean. Chains look good. This thing is in. It's got a little dirt in it, but hey, check that out. Very, very little discoloring as far as the oil goes. Cam lobes look pretty good. So I would say she's gonna be a good one. Very clean inside. That's good news. Good to see. Need a 10mm. Just taking the little ground strap off that was already tore. All right, now we'll get over to the other side. All right, now we're gonna do the other side. Same thing. This is a rinse and repeat. 8mm bolts. Few pieces of plastic in here, but overall same thing, very clean, and everything just looks so good in here. I will teach you guys something. I'm not sure what year it is, but I think it's 10 and up, 9 and up. It's probably 9 and up, but they changed the casting stamps on all of these to say Fomoco instead of Ford, or nothing at all. So if you ever see an engine that's got a Fomoco part, you know, like a stamp where it says Fomoco, instead of just the typical Ford logo, it's probably a later model engine. And in my experience, that's been pretty true. I'm not sure on the year. My guess is to be 09 because that's when they changed the cams and all. So your guess is as good as mine. Now, we got the valve covers off. We need to start on the front end. Try to find my puller to pull the harmonic balancer off. So I'm gonna grab some tools and we will be right back with you. All right, so on the late models, they do not have the threaded provisions to get a flat puller on here. So I've tried something a little different because I cannot find a good 3-jaw. Taking an air hammer and a little tool that I made to put a socket on the end of it, just driving it off. Perfect. Didn't ask for it to come off any easier. That may be even easier than using a puller. Now, get y'all where y'all can see here. Oh, too far. So, next thing I'm gonna do is take off the water pump pulley. Again, 10mm bolts. Of course, if you're putting a used motor in, you can obviously not do all of this. We reseal all of them with new water pumps and everything. So we don't put any of them just slap back in as used engines. Doesn't matter what it's for. I put them all together like they're my personal trucks. It obviously adds some serious money to the job, but I don't put anything together that I don't put my name on or I don't stand behind. So water pump looked real good on that one. It was leaking though. Check that out. We've seen these just rusted completely off. There's no fins or nothing left. This is a late model. The new ones have this ring, the old ones don't. But check out right in here, all this wetness. It was leaking. It wasn't weeping, but the gasket looks like it was definitely starting to leak. Now, we are going to need a 13, a 15, an 18, and a 22 or 21, I believe. Let's see. 13's already out. 13 is going to be for your pulley here. Go ahead and get that off. When you reinstall this idler pulley, be very careful. If you tighten this up and break this boss off, you have to put a timing cover on it. Ask me how I know. Now, let's get all our 13s off. One here, here. These are different 13s. They're two different thicknesses, about the same length though. The ones that are smaller have a shoulder made onto them, or a washer made onto them. The thicker ones have a floating washer. You can't get them mixed up. They will not go in if you're in the wrong place. Now let's get our 4 oil pan bolts off the bottom. That takes care of all of those. Get a 15 out for all your nuts over here. Typically all your secondary nuts are going to be 15s. Now we need our 18. Take off all our big studs, or bigger studs. It's 5 of these, 3 on the right, 2 on the left. I'm sorry. In the vehicle, 3 on the left, 2 on the right. If you're looking at the engine, there's 3 on the right, 2 on the left. It's been my experience that all of the manufacturers of parts, when they say right or left side of the engine, or right or left bank rather, it's from the driver's seat. 7/8 or 22 down here. These studs are different. There's only 2 of them. Now, make sure we got them on. There's all of them. Get our little pry bar here. Just want to put enough pressure on it to break the gasket, or the seal rather. And there is the inside of our low mileage 5.4. So you see, these have a lot more pickup trigger points on the driver's side head where the old ones only have one. And this thing is in excellent shape too. They did change the tensioners out. These are plastic. The early models are cast iron. Your trigger wheel for your crank sensor down here, it says front. I have seen them installed backwards. Matter of fact, on my personal van, somebody had done timing chains before I bought it. And well, they screwed it up. So now if you're doing timing chains, you want to go ahead and roll it around and get it on cylinder number 1. This is cylinder number 1. This will be your cylinder 1 bank, or your bank 1, sorry. This is bank 2. The easiest way to tell, if you don't know for sure, obviously you can look it up, but the cylinder that's closest to the crank stub is going to be number 1. So you see how much closer this one is than that one. But these heads are interchangeable. You can flip them side to side. Obviously you got to move your cams and all around, but you can, if you have the cams out of them for whatever reason, get machined or so on and so forth, they are interchangeable side to side. Ambidextrous or whatever you want to call it. I'm not going to roll it around a cylinder 1 because it doesn't matter right now. I got to pull the chains off, pull the heads off anyways. We're doing head gaskets and all on this one. So it's no big deal for me to go and take them off. Give it a 10mm again. Get your timing chain tensioners out. Discard all of your old stuff. So every one of these things I've seen though that has a gasket. On the old ones, they just had metal on metal surface. They're always blown out right here. See, that corner's chunked out, and you see it's been out for a while. So this thing probably had a little timing chain noise, but this right here is a prime example of why we check them all. We do not throw known good engines in the garage. See, same thing. And that will cause you oil pressure problems to the tensioners, and it'll rattle and start up. Just a little fun fact for y'all. This shows you how much wears on this engine. The guide is in very good shape. There's just a small little ridge right here. So the guides are in good shape. Most likely the chains are in good shape. So something I do want to do, and this is something you'll probably have to do whenever you're putting one together for the first time. Take you a pair of vice grips. Do not put it on the lobe. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I take 2, especially when I'm doing them in the vehicles, and lock them against the heads, just so they can't spin. But as soon as you'll see, as soon as I take this off, you'll see the tension. See what I mean? Wants to go one way or the other. All I want to do is keep them from kissing the valves real hard. It's not going to hurt them. Just lightly touch it while I disassemble it. So go ahead and get your 8mm out. Take your guides off. On the old ones, let's see. Yeah, on the old ones, this is a little short bolt. So when you do the tensioners, they've updated them. And on the new tensioners, or the new guides, sorry, these are much thicker. So you have to change this bolt to a longer bolt. All factory stuff in very, very good shape. So I won't bore y'all with taking that one off. I will do a time lapse of it. But let's go ahead and get the head yanked off this side. And we'll get the spark plugs pulled real quick. Here's another little fact for you guys. This is a fact in my opinion. These spark plugs that everybody has problem with on these things, all they blow out, all their junk, whatever. As many as I've put together, never had one come out. Knock on wood, but it's always because, in my experience, when they come out, they're loose. So let's see how much force it takes to get these out. Not as tight as I put them, but tighter than most. Yeah, that one was good and tight. That one wasn't. So those were okay, not as tight as I put them. We do have a video we're gonna do. We have some used junk heads around here that we're gonna show y'all what it takes to actually break one, if we can break one, or pull the threads rather. Motorcraft plugs in good shape, very good shape. I would say this thing is a happy runner. Yeah, real good shape. So the only reason we are doing the head gaskets on it, other than peace of mind, and I'll show you guys just a second where the common failure point on the head gaskets is at on all of the old ones. So we'll come right around here. We'll say hi to Boots, the shop cat. Hello, Boots. Right here, you see this little bit of wetness. I'm sorry, hang on. Get y'all figured out here. You see this little bit of wetness right here. Right here is the head gasket sealing surface. The oil pressure port is right here. It comes up through the block and into the head. If this head was on the other side, this would be where your timing chain tensioner mounts. There's the oil port, and they leak right here. So you'll see it leak, run down, get on the exhaust, makes a hell of a mess. On the driver's side, you will never see them leak because that port is up front. Again, Ambient Extras heads. So on all the 2000, I believe, and up, they went PI, performance increase. So if you get an older block, be careful not to get an old one because you're robbing yourself of free power. And in a 5.4, we all know they need them. So on the late model or the aftermarket head gasket head bolts, they are 15 millimeters. The old ones are 13, and they have a made-in washer. So if you see them with 15s, it's either been done or the engine's a little newer than you anticipated. So I try to detorque these in a sequence pattern to save the block more than the head. The head, we're going to get machines that really doesn't matter. But it is always good practice to detorque them. So I go from the outside in, so we'll jump around a little bit. There's all of our head bolts. So again, 15 headed, no washer, they're made on. On the early models, 13, and it's got a floating washer. Stack all these up in the middle. Now we do have the water pipe right here. We got to get disconnected. They're 13 millimeter studs. Apparently I didn't get that one all the way out. Come on, baby. I got she's out now. Okay. Now we get our 13s right here. When you take a cylinder head to the machine shop, you want it to be as bare as possible. No plugs, no exhaust manifolds, nothing. For a couple reasons. One, you make it easy on those guys. Two, you make sure that they don't forget your stuff, because it does happen. Get her flipped up here. So, right here is your oil pressure port that feeds your head, your cam, etc. So they'll leak right here, and on this one, based on the amount of oil running down the oil residue on the block, I would say it was definitely leaking. Probably wasn't leaking much, but when they go, they really go. And I've always seen them, it seems like they leak between the layers of the gaskets worse, but yeah, it's got a pretty good little line right here. I would say it's definitely, with this, it's definitely starting to leak. Overall though, the engine looks really good inside. So again, not gonna bore you the other side. I will have a time lapse in between them all, but don't forget your dowels. You can leave them in the block. They're not gonna hurt anything until you get your head back. Almost looks like it had a little bit of coolant leak on this cylinder here. You see all the carbon buildup on them, but this one's real nice and clean. So I would believe it's probably burning a little coolant right there. Let's check the head over. Here's the dreaded spark plug holes everybody talks about. So everything looks pretty good, pretty standard anyways. You see the clean line here. I would say it was definitely leaking, but pretty standard stuff. Doesn't look like we have any mint valves. We do have one broken stud here for the exhaust. Pretty typical. We're gonna get these out. Those are 13 millimeters. I would recommend just go ahead and get a 1/2-inch gun on them, because you'll fight with a 3/8 to get them out. Get our 13 socket on a 1/2-inch gun. If it pulls the studs, it makes it easier for you, because you're gonna put new studs and all in it anyways, or we are. There's one that broke. Of course, it don't want to come out. There we go. Exhaust manifold's off. All right. Gasket's weren't in too terrible a shape. I have heard these things where they'll leak between the layers and man, they'll whistle. Golly, they'll whistle like crazy. It'll drive you nuts. So, next thing we need to do is get these studs out. And then this head is ready to go to the machine shop. So, I'll come back to that video. I'm going to go ahead and video the rest of it for you guys. All right, guys. So here's the driver's side. This is the oil port that I showed y'all on the other side. Again, if these ever do leak, they run back into the timing cover and you'd never actually know it. There's no visible signs externally of the block that show any sign of leakage. So if y'all ever get one apart and you see a cylinder that's extremely clean, like there's no carbon buildup on the pistons, most likely it had a blown head gasket. Because when they get the water / coolant in there, they steam clean the cylinder. So it'll be extremely, extremely clean on one cylinder, and you really won't know why. So don't worry about the dirt that's in there. The engine's not getting turned over. It is going to get washed out. I'll flip it over and spray it out with some brake cleaner, make sure it's good and clean. There's nothing you can do about that. It's going to get in there one way or the other. Well, that's it. Now, I've got some stuff to reseal. I've obviously got to get the oil paint all off of it, but I'm at a standstill until we get the heads back from the machine shop. So one other thing to take out when you take your heads, take your cylinder head temp, your ECT out. These things don't have a typical old school sensor. They're in the side of the heads and it registers as the cylinder head temp. I think it's a 19 or 3/4, best I can remember. Be careful because they're easy to break. Very easy to break. Snap-on's not going to do it because they got that ridge built in the inside of them. Appreciate you, Snappy. We'll get the old Quinn Harbor Freight job out. So that's our cylinder head temp sensor. And these things are stripped. Got a couple of bolts I'm going to get out of them or try to get out of them, and then they're off to the machine shop. That's it, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Unfortunately, I won't get you. You won't be able to get. Let me start over. I won't have any footage of resealing the block or getting the engine cleaned up and ready to go. So this was just a tear down. I'm going to make another video that's showing y'all how to clean it all up and reinstalling the cylinder heads, how to torque them, torque extinguish, and all that. So stay tuned. There's plenty more to come. Thank y'all.